It's no longer burning, but tonight the Marshall Fire became even more destructive. The fire stopped surgeries at Good Samaritan Hospital.
I've had cases canceled like this before. Unfortunately, it was in Afghanistan.
We learned how the hospital in Lafayette went from caring for patients to trying to get them to safety.
The basis of any political party should be the truth, and this is not the truth.
A party faithful changes his party. What this former Republican state lawmaker wants from his now former party. Next. Sign up for your county's emergency alert. We're starting the show that way today because of new information from the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. As we've told you throughout the week, you need to register your cell phone in most counties to get an emergency reverse notification. We just learned tonight a little more than 24,000 cell phones and landlines received Marshall Fire evacuation alerts 1 week ago today. We also received a sobering update that we're now at 1,084 structures lost in the fire. Boulder County provided us this map, and we've added the times to show you when each area received an emergency alert. The red areas received evacuation orders, meaning get out. The yellow areas were evacuation warnings, meaning prepare to evacuate or leave if you feel unsafe. The earliest get out alert came at 11:47 a.m., just north and east of the Origin area near Highway 93 and Highway 170. The next alerts were east and south of that area. Take one quick look at the bottom. That Superior area around Rock Creek received a yellow prepare to leave alert, not the get out now alert. And there are homes that were lost in that area. In releasing this map and information, Boulder County also said it would work toward a location-based cell phone alert that you do not need to sign up for, the kind that we get for weather warnings and Amber Alerts. As the Marshall Fire spread, a line of ambulances, 40 to 50 deep, waited in the parking lot of Good Samaritan Hospital. An entire intensive care unit was evacuated in Lafayette. Doctors and nurses feared the flames could overtake the hospital. They had to transfer the sickest patients in a matter of minutes. Here's Mark Salinger.
Very quickly, it turned into a whirlwind of what do we do next? How do we support our staff? How do we support our patients and their families?
The fire burned quickly. Directly in its path was Good Samaritan Hospital. As the flames approached, the hospital made the decision to begin evacuating patients.
It went from controlled chaos to just a controlled, normal ICU day of this is what we have to do, so let's get it done.
Heather Dose is a clinical nurse manager. She was working in the ICU Thursday.
There was an ambulance line of no shorter than 40 and 50 ambulances sitting in the parking lot just waiting for us to tell them which patients to take.
55 would be evacuated to other hospitals. The sickest went first.
Of those patients, about 18, 19 of them were extremely sick on ventilators.
No, it's not good when the OR smells like smoke. That's a problem.
Dr. Daniel Posley was preparing for surgery when he could tell something was wrong from inside the operating room.
The last time I had a surgery stopped was in Afghanistan, and there you do smell smoke often, so it really brought me back to that.
He went home to evacuate his own family.
Being a surgeon, you have two families, your own family and then your patients, right? So I'm thinking about my family, about my patients, and then you're thinking about the community. You know, I live minutes from here.
We prepare for a lot of things, right? Our emergency plans are broad.
Hospitals prepare for everything. Even for Brian Fleming, a fire like this was unexpected. He's the Assistant Director of Emergency Management for SCL Health.
Most of our response preparedness around fires is to receive patients from those events. And this actually threatened, the community and the facility itself.
The fire spared the hospital when the winds calmed down.
We were very, very lucky, though.
By that point, the ICU was empty.
And we looked at the board, and it's the first time I've ever, in my 9 years here at Good Sam, seen that board in the ICU be completely empty with no patient names. And I think that's when it hit all of us that, wow, this is what we just did, and we did it to keep our patients safe.
Since this was such an unprecedented event, they're using it to update their emergency procedures and look at what went right and what they could do differently. Urban wildfires don't happen very often, but this fire showed that it is possible and they need to be prepared. Marshall.
Now, Mark, I know that Avista was evacuating patients first, and we've got COVID going on. How difficult was it to find space at other hospitals?
Yeah, SCL has 3 hospitals across the metro area. All 3 of them went on to the emergency procedures that they were trying to find space for all these different patients that were transferring to other hospitals. Of course, all of these hospitals are dealing with staffing shortages as well as shortages in places that patients can go to because of COVID. So it's not exactly the easiest thing to do in the middle of a pandemic and a raging wildfire.
The oldest parts of Superior are barely recognizable to people who lived there for decades. The town's mayor walked through Old Town Superior for the first time today and tells our Noel Brennan the Marshall Fire stripped away part of the town's history and character.
It's really tragic to see so many homes gone.
Destruction can be disorienting.
You almost feel lost as to where am I? Where is everything? Because so much is gone.
Clint Folsom barely recognizes the Superior of the present.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Because of one day in the town's recent past.
You know, the day when a good portion of the town was lost to fire.
The Marshall Fire marks the most difficult day for a mayor nearing the end of his term.
That'll be 8 years serving as mayor.
The day history was lost.
This is the site of the Historical Museum. Just told the history of what it was like to live in the coal mining era.
History that belonged to a town.
So this is my mom's house.
History that belonged to people.
It was a special place. She was very happy here, made friends in the neighborhood, made a great garden.
A town of 4 square miles feels smaller.
Absolutely.
In times that bring people together.
Nice to see you, man. Good. Yeah. This is tough.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. My mom's home is right there, the chimney.
That was your mom's
That was
home?
my mom's home.
I'm so sorry.
The Superior of the present will soon be history as a town looks to the future.
I know things will get built back over time, but there's a lot lost here that will not be back.
For Next, I'm Noel Brennan.
Some things the fire took and didn't take seem random. Mayor Folsom shared that his mom's mailbox was intact even though the house was gone. Inside, he found a letter addressed to his niece, which he has since delivered. The Lakewood police agent shot by a gunman in a shooting spree is now out of the hospital. Lakewood police just shared this video on Twitter of Agent Ashley Ferris leaving today. The shooting happened a week ago Monday. The gunman killed 5 people and injured others in a shooting spree in Denver and Lakewood. Investigators say Agent Ferris brought that to an end. Police say she ordered the suspect to drop his gun. He ignored her and shot Ferris in the abdomen. She shot at him from the ground, and he died at the scene. 1 year since the assault on the Capitol, and Republicans are still leaving the party. Former State Representative Cole Wist is the latest prominent name. This week, Wist changed his party affiliation from Republican to unaffiliated. He posted on social media, election lies, vaccine misinformation, making it harder to vote, excusing January 6th thuggery, conspiracy theories galore. I tried, I encouraged reason, I urged a pivot from Trump, I failed, I'm out. Today, Wist told me he challenges Republicans who do not believe in election fraud to speak out or be considered complicit.
And we all know that those leaders don't agree that the election was stolen, but they don't have the courage to say it publicly. I mean, they'll talk a good game in private, but when the lights are on or when the questions are asked, they simply don't have the courage to say it. And I'm not sure what that says about a political party.
No longer being a registered Republican does not mean Wist is no longer conservative. He told me he will still vote conservative for people who stand for limited government and fiscal constraints as long as the candidate is truthful. One of the iconic images of the attack on the Capitol is a picture of Democratic Congressman Jason Crow. He was trapped in the House gallery as rioters attempted to break in. His calm under fire, protecting fellow members of the House, is one of the many lasting images from that day. 1 year since having his Army Ranger training kick in while in a suit, the congressman told me he sees the threat to democracy just as apparent now as it was then.
This notion that there's no objective truth, that truth is what I say it is really a dangerous thing for our democracy right now, because there is a truth, there is a reality, and the reality is that the election, the 2020 election, was one of the most safe and secure elections in our nation's history. There's no proof at all of widespread fraud. It's been debunked over and over again by the courts, by election officials. It just didn't happen.
Ahead of this November's election, Crow encourages anyone from any party to volunteer to be a poll watcher. Poll watchers are not the election workers who handle and process the ballots, but rather registered voters picked by parties to keep an eye on the process. Seeing is believing, right? For instance, my glasses are red. No, really. My glasses are red. Maybe if I say it enough, you will believe that my very obviously blue glasses are red. Remember, though, seeing is believing. Republican State Representative Ron Hanks is running for U.S. Senate. He was in Washington, D.C. 1 year ago today. You may know him as the Colorado state lawmaker who claimed foreign intelligence agencies had information to keep President Biden from becoming president, or that Antifa was behind the attack on the Capitol. He just sent a campaign email to continue his unproven and false election fraud narrative. Remember, seeing is believing. Without giving that email much attention, it references the belief of 2020 election fraud, not the proof, because there isn't any. But that's the point, right? Convince enough people to believe something is true when you cannot prove it's true. Colorado conducts a bipartisan post-election audit, and those audits have not found fraud in any election since the audits started in 2017. You know what? The state even provides the receipts for you to see. You can believe my glasses are red, or you can look at the proof that does exist. Proof you can see with your own eyes.
I was really thinking about the worst case scenario of what could happen.
It seemed like deja vu all over again as fire raged through Boulder County last week.
It's easy to jump to the worst case scenario when a lot of those worst case scenarios have happened.
After being homeless until recently, they feared they might be again. And we're past the point of it being too early to talk about climate change and how it contributes to fire disasters. We found a climate scientist who lives in Louisville, and you'll hear from her next. Seeing smoke while still settling into their new home became unsettling for a mom and son in Boulder County. Krista Points and her son Garrett live in the southern end of Erie. The house they currently live in isn't new, but it's new to them. They just moved in near the end of October after being homeless for more than a year. A divorce and custody battle plus the pandemic contributed to Krista losing her home in the spring of 2020. There are still moving boxes in the hallways of their new place. When they saw the smoke from the fire last Thursday and heard how fast it was spreading and the direction it was going, they started to pack all of their essentials into the car.
Got it ready for Christmas so that we could have family over and celebrate being in our home. And before we knew it, we were having to load things back up again because we're scared. And for Garrett, it was really, really difficult to think about not only losing our home again, but losing everything in it.
And I was thinking about how we had just gotten all their stuff. We were finally sitting down. We had a house. Things were looking up, and then knowing that it all could just be gone and just everything.
Krista says Garrett started having a panic attack thinking about losing everything. She tried to keep him calm by slowly staging things by the door. In the end, their home was fine. Fire never made it that far, and they did not need to evacuate. Krista says she has friends who lost everything and in her own way knows what they're going through right now.
I think that it's going to be really hard for a lot of people to learn to accept help and to understand that it's just not a matter of will or skill or merit. I've done everything I'm supposed to do, and I still ended up homeless. And I think that for a lot of these people, they're facing that they've done everything right, and it's all gone wrong anyway.
Let's take a cue from what Krista did, even with the fire in the distance. Please take a moment, if you haven't yet. Talk with your family about what you would take in an emergency. It's a sobering conversation about what is important and where you have it in your home. And also, sign up for emergency alerts in your county. We have links on the next section of 9news.com.
Well, we all woke up to an absolute winter wonderland. 1 foot to 2 feet of snowfall stacking up across the high country, about 7 inches in Arvada, Fort Collins, and 4.5 officially out at DIA. Up across the ski areas, they are loving it. This weekend is going to be awesome. Tonight, we still are tracking a couple of lingering showers across the Front Range Mountains, those winding down within the next couple of hours. Still some folks in the single digits overnight, teens for us here in Denver, but that shouldn't last long. High pressure is around, so a brief break from the cold as our temperatures warm up, but another storm waiting in the wings. Daytime highs in the 40s in northern Colorado, 50s here in Denver, and some 60s further to the south. Here we go. Possibly a rain snow mix coming our way Saturday evening. A brief cool off Sunday before the sunshine, and the heat returns next week.
The flames are not burning homes anymore, but the threat of wildfire in populated urban areas is not over.
It's going to be happening more and more. This isn't a fluke, which is so sad to say, but it's not a fluke. It's the future.
It's long past time to talk about climate and how wildfires have become year-round. Next. We're still waiting to learn the cause of the Marshall Fire, but the destruction could be considered climate change. Late-season fires have become normal in Colorado, and it's time to talk about how the world's climate crisis is contributing to that. Don't take it from us. Take it from Dr. Lauren Gifford, a geographer focused on climate policy who lives in Louisville.
This was a wildfire that hit a suburban area, and it's going to be happening more and more. This isn't a fluke, which is so sad to say, but it's not a fluke. It's the future. So I'm Lauren Gifford. I have a PhD in geography. I identify as a human environment geographer. All right, here's places. We'll look here. Amazon jungle. We understand climate change as what's called a threat multiplier. So it takes existing threats like drought, like wildfire, and literally multiplies them, exacerbates them. And what we saw here last week with the Marshall Fire is the reality of that. We've always had, weather fluctuations. We've always had extreme weather. But this increase in greenhouse gases has made that extreme weather more extreme and has made it more unpredictable. And it was the confluence of that is what brought us this mega urban wildfire. Personally, I am very angry. I've been working in climate change for 15 years. I hear so much talk about action, and I don't see real action to address increased concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This is the reality of a changing climate. This is not a fluke, and we need to build a community and a future and institutions. We need to build a society that prevents this and supports people moving forward who have experienced this.
Party on top, party in front. If your car looks like it got an ugly haircut after a snowstorm, that's not how you Colorado. What is? Signing up for your county's emergency alert. Oh boy, driving around with a snowhawk and a snowbeard on your SUV in the middle of a mountain storm, that's not how you Colorado. This driver in Frisco could use a snow brush and ice scraper. Don't have one? I don't know, use your gloved hand. They probably did that on the side of the car there. We noticed the SUV has some bumper damage too. Probably unrelated. Maybe the decision making isn't the best here. Let's hope they don't need to brake too fast because that party on top will become party in the front and you can't see through bangs. Not that I would know about that. If you see something that's not very Colorado, like it, share it with us. Email us your pics and video to next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. Susan wrote in suggesting we turn January 6th into a day of remembrance for democracy. I might call it Seeing is Believing Day. Join me with that. January 6th. See it with your own eyes.